All right, let's do this. 270 degrees clockwise. That means C is going to start at the top. Then over here, it's going to be at the right. Then down here, it's going to be at the bottom. And then if we move one more quadrant over, C is now going to be facing the left. And it's going to be C prime. It's the new one. The numbers will stay the same. It's still going to be either 4, 7 or 7, 4. So now let's just count this thing and see. It looks like we have negative 7 for x, and we have positive 4 for y. So we're not going to be 4, 7, we're going to be negative 7, 4. That is C prime. Negative 7, comma 4. If we look at how that changed, we switched the numbers, and then you made the images x negative. We changed the sign. Switch x and y. Change the sign of images x. That means x comma y is what we're going to start out with. Then we're going to switch them to be y comma x. And then whatever is in the new x, the new spot for x, for us it's going to be the old y. You're going to change the sign of it. Let's do that, and then we'll draw it and make sure that it makes sense. So flip the numbers. We have 1 comma 6. And then we're going to change the sign of the new x. It's going to be 1 comma 2, and then change the sign of the new x. Now let's graph this. We have negative 1 for x, 2 for y. That means 1 to the left, 2 up. That's going to be A prime. Now we have negative 1 for x, 6 for y. Negative 1 for x, 6 for y. Oh, okay. So I even, in the middle of explaining this to you, I forgot which way this was supposed to face. But let's connect these dots with lines so we can get this picture. We spun it 180 degrees, and then we turned it one last time, and now it's facing, C is facing the left, and A and B are towards the y-axis. B prime and A prime are right next to the y-axis. And now that the whole thing's drawn, it does make sense. We did do it right. You switch the x and the y, and you make the new x negative, and that's what happens only for this one. Each of these rules, they only work for the cases that show up here. So your options are either you memorize these 3 different rules and the 2 times you can use each one of them, which is a lot to memorize, or you pick your favorite point on the graph, you draw the arrow 90 degrees at a time until you get where it wants you to go, and then you figure out the coordinates from there. I personally like to figure things out. Some people like to memorize formulas. That's up to you. If we rotate this triangle 360 degrees, let's take C again. We go 90, another 90, 90 takes it there, another 90 brings it to the bottom, another 90 brings C to the left, and another 90 makes 360, and look at that. Where did it end up? It's back where it started. Which means if we had x and y, and we spun it 360 degrees, how did they change. Look at where C started. It started at 4, 7, and then after we went around town, not once, not twice, not 3 quadrants, but 4 quadrants later, where did C end? Back at the same place. So it's at 4, 7. It started at 4, 7. It ended at 4, 7. You start with XY. 360 degrees later, you end with XY. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. Now let's look at these numbers and see what happened. Remember, our 3 options were: you keep them in the same spot, but you make them negative, and that's what happened for 180 degrees. Or we took X and Y, we switched them, and if you make the Y negative, if you make the new X negative, let's look back and see which one matched that. That was 270 degrees. And then the last option is we take X and Y, we switch their location, and we make the new Y negative. And the only one that we haven't listed yet is a 90 degrees, and these are all clockwise. CW is clockwise. I hope you wrote that down because we're going to go through these. We have 9, 8, but here we have 8, 9. So they switched, which means it's either going to be 90 or 270. Those are the only rotations that switch X and Y. But here they were both positive, and in the new one, only the new Y changed its sign, and that matches 90 degrees clockwise. 90 degrees clockwise. Practice spelling clockwise and counterclockwise. Otherwise, you'll forget what these abbreviations even mean. Try 10 and 11. I'll show you the answers in a little bit. There you go. Second one, number 10, is 270 degrees clockwise. Last one, 180 degrees clockwise. And the last one, both of the signs changed. That's how we know it's 180 degrees. Number 10, only the sign of the new X changed. The new X, that sign changed. And they switched places. So that's 270 degrees. I also want you to describe what would have been the counterclockwise. – 90 degrees clockwise is how many degrees counterclockwise? 90 degrees one way is 270 degrees the other way. 270 degrees one way is how many degrees the other way? That's 1, 2, 3. If we went the other direction, that would have been 1 quadrant, which is 90 degrees. (180 degrees), that's a half turn. Or in the other direction, it's still a half turn. So it's still 180 degrees. If we look at our pictures, did the size or the angles of these shapes change? Did we ever change how big this triangle was when we drew it? Or if we look at the ones that were digitally printed out on your screen, the size didn't change. So write this down. Size will not change from our rotation. Orientation, which means the direction that it's pointing in. The easiest one to tell that one is this triangle. It was pointing up, then it was pointing to the right, then it was pointing down, then to the left. So the direction you're facing is going to change. Your orientation of the shape will change. From a rotation. Lastly, we have the vertices. The vertices are the corners. As in, if we have A, B, C, D, will a rotation change the order of them? Did they ever change their location? No, they did not. The orientation of the vertices does not change. Oh, rotations. Rotation does not change the orientation of vertices. What does change the orientation of the vertices is the reflection. Okay, thank you for joining with me. That was a very long lesson. I understand. Good luck on your assignment. You do have the entire weekend to finish it. Or, if you're in class, ask your teacher for help. This is a tricky topic, but if you follow and if you think very critically, rotations are not something that you can just do willy-nilly. You really have to pay attention to what's going on and where it should go. Does it make sense? Draw the whole picture, see if it makes sense. See ya.